When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
This podcast contains adult themes and language, and some of the things that we discuss may be disturbing to some listeners. In this podcast, we discuss sexual assault, torture, race, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself.
Welcome to Fruitloops, Buiti Binafi, and Bienvenidos Bitches. Thank you so much for listening. Fruitloops is a true crime, history, and comedy podcast that delves into the often overlooked stories of serial killers of color and, more importantly, the victims. We take deep dives into the lives and crimes of these killers worldwide, while also examining the history, culture, and social factors that may have influenced their actions. And the reason that we cover these crimes is because they often go unnoticed by the public. And why is that? Because in the simplest of terms, the news is racist, allegedly.
And we are Wendy and Beth. She's Wendy, a Black Latinx woman, and I'm Beth, and I just happen to be white. That's just a little piece of who we are. Another piece is that although we are both fascinated by true crime, really fascinated by true crime, and we know a lot about it, keep in mind that we are not journalists, investigators, or psychologists, and the opinions expressed in this podcast are just that, our opinions.
Who are we talking about today, friend?
Well, today is our episode 252 on Jackie M. Roubideaux. This case involves the deaths of young children, so please take care while listening. Jackie Roubideaux was convicted of killing a 3.5-year-old girl, and she also attempted to murder the child's twin sister. She is also suspected in the death of an infant, and at the time of these crimes, Roubideaux was still a teenager.
Well, before we get into the case, how you doing?
I'm okay. Kind of stressed out about the state of the world, but other than that,
if you don't think about how terrible it is, it's not that bad. So I totally understand how you're feeling because I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And I find myself like, even when the weather is bad, having like my garden.
Yeah.
And I feel like a cliche 40-year-old. An old woman with a garden and 2.5 kids.
Well, you're not. You are not stereotypical anybody. So don't even worry about that.
Sweet. Oh my God. But I'm telling you, I mean, I've been into self-help for the past 20 years of my life. And they all say, go outside and touch the ground. And they've been right this whole time.
Yeah.
What?
I didn't listen for 20 years, but
I was like, maybe this self-help book will tell me to touch grass a little differently.
Yeah.
Maybe this one will be the one. But anyway, it's clicking, and I am aware of how terrible things are.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing the little
got to
sprouts
do something.
growing.
I mean, we can't do anything about the state of the world, so.
Well, it certainly feels like that, and that's why it feels so crummy.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're getting through it. I'm here. Beth is here. Let's get into some listener letters. And
Okay.
There's a sound effect for that.
What is it? Angels! Welcome. Thank you.
Oh, what's in the bag, Beth?
Well, I wanted to say thanks to Kim, or Kimberly Ann, for your message on Instagram.
Yes, it was. Oof.
Yeah, it was a really nice message.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim, so much for the message, and hip hop air horns to you, because it made our day, and gosh, we love you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And if you have any questions or comments, please send them to fruitloopspod@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 602-935-6294. And we may feature it on a future episode, but if you don't want us to, just let us know and we won't.
That's it. It's as easy as that. Also, we've got a new Patreon that needs. We must thank you so much, Justine Ann. We are so grateful that you joined the Patreon, and we hope you enjoy what we got for you over there. And here is your tune. It will be on the internet forever, so I hope you don't hate it forever. Justine Ann, Justine, I'm thanking you for supporting the Patreon.
Love it.
Oh, Justine, I hope you enjoyed that. And hip hop air horn to you.
Yeah, thank you.
And to everybody out there who can hear the sound of our voices, anybody supporting the show, we appreciate you and love you so much.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a quick ad break, and we're going to get into the story when we come back. Well, break is over. We're back.
Okay.
Who's our subject again, Beth?
Our subject is Jackie Roubideaux, an Oklahoma teenager who was convicted of killing a 3.5-year-old girl in 1976. She is also suspected in the death of an infant in 1977.
All right, now we're moving on to the love and light section of our show, where we just say rest in power to the victims whose lives, these babies' lives cut way too short.
Yeah.
And love and light to their loved ones, their families, playmates, loved ones, communities, everyone left in the wake of this crime. The victims who lost their lives are Nema Louise Carter, 19 months, Mary Elizabeth Carpenter, 3 years old, and Augustine Tina Jacqueline Carpenter was Mary's twin, and Augustine survived.
Yeah.
Now let's get into the setting. Take us there, Beth.
Well, the setting is Lawton, Oklahoma. And we were actually just in Oklahoma for the Oklahoma Girl Scout murders.
That's
right. So we won't
right.
go over all the same stuff.
Okay.
But suffice it to say, Oklahoma has a deep and complex Native American history.
Mm-hmm. Now, long before European invasion, it was home to numerous indigenous nations, many native peoples, including the Caddo, Wichita, Osage, and Comanche, thrived in this region with rich cultures, complex social structures, trade networks, and distinct languages.
But by the 19th century, Oklahoma had become central to the U.S. government's forced relocation of Native American tribes, particularly through the Indian Removal Act of 1830. Tribes from the southeastern U.S., such as the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Muskogee, and Seminole, were forcibly moved to present-day Oklahoma along the Trail of Tears, enduring immense suffering and loss of life.
By the mid-19th century, Oklahoma had been designated as quote-unquote Indian Territory, intended as a permanent home for displaced tribes. Now, I wonder, is there a permanent home for white settlers that we can send them to? Just wondering, asking for a friend.
Just asking questions.
Yeah, exactly. What's wrong with that? But over time, additional tribes, including the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Kiowa, and Apache, were relocated there.
In 1869, Fort Sill was established in Oklahoma as a military post to enforce the reservation system and protect settlers. Fort Sill played a significant role in the Indian Wars, a series of conflicts between indigenous peoples and European colonists, and later the U.S. government over land, resources, and expansion.
Fort Sill served as a base for military operations and also the confinement of Native American prisoners, including Geronimo and his fellow Apaches. The renowned Buffalo Soldiers, black soldiers who served in the U.S. Army after Civil War, and by the way, they called them Buffalo Soldiers because their hair resembled the hair of the buffalo.
Yeah.
Anyway, served at Fort Sill during the late 19th century.
So back to the reservation system. Although Native American tribes were promised autonomy, Native governance was being steadily undermined by the expansion and shifting land policies of the U.S. government.
The Dawes Act of 1887 further disrupted indigenous land ownership by forcing Native Americans to accept individual land allotments instead of communal holdings, leading to massive land loss. Then the land runs. Oklahoma Sooners, anyone?
Yeah.
So beginning in 1889, the land runs opened up large portions of former native land to white settlers, drastically reducing tribal sovereignty.
Lawton, Oklahoma was founded in 1901 near Fort Sill when the U.S. government opened the Kiowa Comanche Apache Reservation to non-native settlers through a land lottery. To curb the chaos and lawlessness of previous land rushes, which we talked about in the Oklahoma Girl Scout murders,
Right.
officials came up with a more organized system in 1901. In July of that year, approximately 164,000 people registered for the land lottery.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I have never heard any parts about they had to pay this much or they had to do anything other than be in the lottery and show up.
Register.
Yeah, for land, which is crazy. It's insane.
And that they took from the Native Americans. That, they took the land from the Native Americans, forced them onto this other land, and then took that land.
Yeah. Y'all get out of here. This is mine now. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. I can't wait to put in my new drapes. Thousands gathered on the morning of July 29th to witness the drawing of names that determined who would get these homesteads. Over several days, 13,000 winning envelopes were drawn. A year after the lottery, the population of the 3 new counties established in the lottery were more than 70,000.
The arrival of railroads and the expansion of agriculture spurred Lawton's early growth in the 20th century. Fort Sill remained a major influence, serving as an important military training center during both World War I and World War II.
Over time, Lawton developed into a key economic hub for southwestern Oklahoma, driven by agriculture, cattle, and later government and military support. By the 1970s, when this story takes place, Lawton's population had reached around 80,000. Native Americans made up only a small percentage, roughly 5%, though exact figures are difficult to determine.
But the Comanche Nation headquarters is located 9 miles north of Lawton. It operates under its own constitution and is governed by a tribal council. As of the 2020 census, the Comanche tribe has approximately 17,000 enrolled members, with around 7,000 residing within the tribal jurisdictional area surrounding Lawton.
Comanche people in Oklahoma have historically faced racial discrimination and systemic inequities, including disproportionately high incarceration rates. And then there's this public posting policy or procedure that they do where they post the mugshots of people. And that has further stigmatized Native Americans and reinforced racial profiling, which is bad. The tribe continues to confront ongoing challenges related to self-determination and tribal sovereignty. But a little culture corner with Wendy and Beth. 2 things. Comanche Nation, in their native language, Numunu means the people. And Comanche are known as Lords of the Plains and were once part of the Shoshone tribe. And Numunu is how the Comanche refer to themselves, which I thought was really dope.
Yeah.
And I was also watching an interview with Lily Gladstone. She's an Indigenous woman of Piegan, Blackfeet, and Nez Perce heritage. And she was raised on the Blackfeet Reservation. And she's in some new project and was talking about how she's heard rumors and misconceptions about Native people. And she's here to dismantle all that shit. She said that there are populations of people in the world who don't even believe that Native Americans exist.
What?
And I've heard of these people. Yes.
What? They must be like flat earthers,
that they're
right?
like mythical creatures.
Oh my
like if
God.
somebody were to say, I'm a native, they would be like, no, you're not. They're not real.
Oh.
Which is wild.
It'd be like the Loch Ness Monster.
Yes, which is insanity.
nuts.
It's crazy. And then she also is like, a lot of people believe that Indigenous people are a monolith. They all have the same language, customs, and beliefs, and they simply do not.
Yeah.
It is false.
Yeah.
So all that to say, I really enjoyed researching Numunu culture for this episode.
Oh.
Now,
Very
let's get into the early life of Roubideaux. What do you got for us, Beth?
Well, Jacqueline, or Jackie Roubideaux, was born on May 5th, 1959 in Comanche County, Oklahoma. We could not find anything about Jackie's early life or any news articles that actually stated conclusively that Jackie Roubideaux is Native American, but we believe that she is Comanche and possibly Lakota.
Yes, and here's why. So her great-grandmother, Wa Perche, is listed as being married to a Comanche man, and she was on the U.S. Indian rolls, which were listed as individuals and families used to track and document the population of Native Americans on reservations.
Roubideaux is a variant of a French surname commonly used by the Lakota people. Jackie's mother, Cher Roubideaux, or Sherry Roubideaux, it's Chere, was born in South Dakota, and the Lakota are found mostly in the 5 reservations of western South Dakota.
At the time of the crimes, Jackie was still a teenager in high school and was living with her mother and Cherry Roubideaux, her grandmother Winifred, or Winnie, and other relatives. Of note, I found documentation that Winnie's brother Herbert, which is Jackie Roubideaux's great uncle, was sent to an Indian school in Phoenix.
Between 1819 and 1969, across the nation, Native American children were forcibly removed from their homes and placed in boarding schools, where they sometimes endured physical and sexual abuse, severe malnourishment, and forced labor.
The U.S. government operated 408 such schools as part of a widespread effort to assimilate indigenous peoples. More than 900 children died in these institutions nationwide, and it's a lot more than 900. That number is small. Arizona had 47 federally funded Indian boarding schools, more than any state except for Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I don't know if we will ever know how many children died because it was hidden.
Yeah, it was hidden.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of Nickel Boys. Have you seen that? The Academy Award?
No.
So Nickel Boys is a movie about black kids who were sent to, they called the ones for black kids reform schools.
Okay.
And they were showing actual scientific footage of the 3D imaging of the ground where the bodies were suspected to be
geez.
in the movie. And I recall us covering on one of our news segments a few years back about these discoveries of thousands of bodies. I'll only bring all that up to say that this 900 number figure is a clear,
it says
clearly
more
inaccurate.
than 900. They know of 900, and
they know of 900,
there's
but
plenty
there's
more. Yeah,
plenty more. That's all.
yeah. The Phoenix Indian Industrial School was founded in 1891 and operated as a boarding school for Native American children until 1990.
What? That was not long ago.
No. Thousands of children were sent there, where their education largely centered on severing cultural ties and enforcing assimilation.
In its early years, students were subjected to military-style discipline, prohibited from speaking their native languages. They would get hit or beaten or punished whenever they did that.
Yeah.
And required to wear American-style uniforms and cut their hair, which you do not do in indigenous culture.
Yeah.
That's, it's a symbol of important things that I cannot name off the top of my mouth right now.
It's different for different cultures.
Exactly. But it's just not something that you do. And what a violation.
Yeah.
They did those things to get them to conform to Western norms.
Yeah. Although Herbert was about 20 years older than Winnie, it's possible that Winnie was sent there too. In any case, there has got to be some generational trauma there.
Couldn't agree more. Jackie and her family lived in the same neighborhood as the victims, and Jackie was often seen walking around the neighborhood. Sometime around 1975 and 1976, Jackie was suspected of setting off several false fire alarms in the neighborhood and was being closely monitored by the authorities.
She has been described by people as quiet and shy, and it was said that she had difficulty looking people in the eye. One of the victims' grandmothers described her as quote-unquote weird.
So now let's jump into the timeline. Splish splash.
Here we go.
April 8th, 1976. Mary Elizabeth Carpenter and her twin sister Augustine Tina Jacqueline Carpenter were abducted in broad daylight from their grandmother's home. The sisters were being raised by their grandmother, Augustine Williams, who had adopted them as infants.
Their family shared a lifelong friendship with Jackie Roubideaux's family, and the twins' aunt, Thomasina, who lived in the house, attended high school with Roubideaux, and the two were friends. Roubideaux occasionally babysat the twins.
The two little girls, who were 3 and a half at the time, were watching TV at home when someone unlatched the living room door and lured them outside. According to later testimony by Tina, the person who lured them was Jackie Roubideaux.
Tina later testified that she and her sister initially followed Roubideaux without hesitation, since they knew her as their babysitter, and she was a friend of their Aunt Thomasina. But as they were walked several blocks away from their home, they became scared.
A neighbor named Thelma McCraig later claimed that she had noticed a teenage girl dragging 2 little girls down the street by their arms. Thelma said the teenager, quote, had hold of the 2 girls by their wrists and they were trying to pull loose, unquote. But Thelma never reported the incident to authorities.
If it's not reported, did it really happen? I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it happened because, why didn't she report it?
Well,
It
yeah.
baffles me, especially when they were looking for these 2 little girls.
Yeah. Or maybe she did. I mean, we've uncovered numerous cases where it's a victim like this, a person who's minoritized, marginalized, and people did say things, but nobody was listening.
Nobody listened.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That could be. Anyway, according to Tina, Roubideaux took the twins to a white house near railroad tracks. She said, quote, there was broken furniture inside. When we got inside, she took us to the refrigerator and told us to get in. She said our aunt will be there to get us out and take us for ice cream later, unquote. Roubideaux then shut the refrigerator door and left.
2 days later, some children were playing in the deserted house. 2 days later.
Yeah.
When they heard cries coming from a grungy refrigerator. An 11-year-old girl named Kathy Ford and another neighborhood child opened the refrigerator door where they discovered Tina Carpenter miraculously alive.
Tina had survived by breathing through a tiny hole in the refrigerator. Her twin sister Mary died of asphyxia. According to Kathy, Tina was naked and covered with bites and bruises. Kathy asked Tina who put her and her sister in the refrigerator, and Tina replied, Jackie Boo or Jackie Burr, although some accounts say Jackie Burnett. In any case, the only Jackie that the family knew was Jackie Roubideaux.
Roubideaux instantly became a suspect, but a lack of physical evidence and the age of the survivor left the investigation stalled, and Roubideaux remained free. She also continued to babysit.
Yeah. In 1977, she was babysitting for George and Rose Carter, a young Native American couple known within her family circle. The couple frequently called on Roubideaux to watch their 19-month-old baby girl, Nima.
According to George, Nima was, quote, very quiet and very laid back, but always observing. She learned things quickly. I remember she used to take out the kitchen drawers, stack them like stairs, and climb up into our cabinets and hide, unquote, which is such a precious memory of a young kid.
Yeah. Then on Halloween night in 1977, Nima was placed in her crib by her parents at their home in Lawton, Oklahoma. The house was a small one-bedroom, so George and Rose slept in the living room while Nima slept in the bedroom.
Later that night, they heard Nima crying, but decided to let her cry it out. A method of sleep training. That's a Western thing, y'all. Eventually, they didn't hear her anymore and assumed that she had fallen back asleep. The next morning, the Carters awoke to discover that Nima was missing from her crib.
Ladies, you'll end up shopping for your guy's deodorant, right? So try Degree's Original Cool Rush. You see, last year, Degree changed the formula, and men were mad. One guy even started a petition. So Degree admitted they messed up and brought the Original Cool Rush scent back. It's clean, crisp, and actually smells like someone you want to cuddle. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So toss one in your cart and find out why it's the best-selling men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, streaming now only on Netflix.
At first, George and Rose thought that Nima had somehow gotten out of the crib by herself. So they checked the entire house for her, like looked in the cabinets and everything. And then, since they couldn't find her, they checked the yard. But Nima was nowhere to be found. When the police showed up, George and Rose immediately became suspects. So they agreed to take lie detector tests, which they passed with flying colors, and they were cleared.
During the police investigation, it was learned that the windows of the Carter house were locked, but there was an outside door that would not lock. It was believed that an intruder entered the home without force through that door and then walked through the room in which the parents were sleeping in order to reach Nima.
But some people believe that the kidnapper had crept into the home much earlier and had hidden in Nima's closet waiting for the Carters to fall asleep. Then the kidnapper took Nima, crept through the tiny Lawton home, boldly past the sleeping parents and out through the door.
That is a terrifying prospect of events.
It is, yeah.
My worst nightmare. So now let's get into the investigation and the arrest. So a month after the abduction, little Nima's badly decomposed body was discovered beside a refrigerator in an abandoned house just 4 blocks away, and not many blocks from where Mary's body had been found a year and a half earlier.
Her body was initially found when a group of neighborhood boys opened the refrigerator door, causing her remains to fall out, and they fled in terror. I guess they didn't get anybody to take a look at it because another passerby found the body and notified authorities.
Investigators determined that her abductor had placed her inside the refrigerator shortly after the kidnapping, causing her to suffocate.
The Carters' acquaintances fell under suspicion, including neighborhood babysitters Joy Smith and Jackie Roubideaux. Then someone remembered that Roubideaux had been questioned in the Carpenter case under almost identical circumstances.
The sister that survived, Tina.
Yeah.
So she was in there, a little 3-year-old girl.
Yep.
With her dead twin.
Yeah.
For at least a day.
Yeah.
Which is unimaginable.
Yeah.
Police spoke with the clerk of a convenience store located near the Carter residence. She was personally acquainted with Roubideaux, and she told police that she saw Roubideaux several times near the Carter residence within a few hours of the estimated time of abduction.
She also claimed that she and Roubideaux had had a discussion that afternoon in which Roubideaux said something about George Carter after she learned that the Carters had hired a different babysitter for the evening. According to the clerk, Roubideaux said, quote, "They told me that was my job. Well, if that's the way he wants it, so be it," unquote.
Oh.
Which doesn't really sound that threatening, but it was described as threatening and menacing. And
sure.
It just sounds like, well, if that's how he wants it.
Fine.
Fine.
Whatever.
I'm going to go play bingo, which is what she said she did.
Wait, oh, really?
Yeah.
Bingo came after that. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you lose a job, what are you going to do? But also, I just think, she's young. You know what I mean? Like, young people don't really care how things sound.
Yeah,
and so
that's
that
true.
just seems like a thing a young person might say.
Would say, yeah.
In a random conversation.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like ominous to me at all.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not making any excuses for Jackie. I'm just saying that just sounds...
I'm just saying that doesn't sound ominous. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so when questioned, Roubideaux said she was playing bingo on the night that Nima disappeared. A detective, Davidson, later recalled, quote, "She was very quiet. She never looked you in the eyes. Her eyes were always somewhere else or looking at the ground. She would always get right close to telling you something critical, and then she'd back off," unquote.
But mostly Davidson remembers an odd response from Roubideaux. He said, quote, "She was very angry about the fact that everybody got to play bingo and she would get stuck babysitting," unquote. Which doesn't really make any sense with this other stuff that went on. So
well,
I don't even know what to think about that. Because she theoretically was angry that George got somebody else to babysit. But then she was mad that she had to babysit and she couldn't play bingo. I don't know.
But then she was also mad that they didn't hire her to babysit.
Right.
So what is it, Roubideaux?
What are you mad at?
Detective Ray Anderson, who was investigating Mary Carpenter's murder, got tired of what he called, quote unquote, cat and mouse games. Evidence was flimsy, so they needed a confession. Quote, "Finally, one day I said, enough of this. I figured I'd confront Jackie and take my one shot with her," unquote.
Detective Anderson brought Roubideaux down to the local Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation office. Quote, "She never really came out and admitted to sticking the Carpenter twins in that refrigerator, but she said enough. She confirmed things we already knew and some things we didn't," unquote.
It's kind of vague, don't you think?
Very vague.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's talking about.
What does that mean? And where's the transcript? So Roubideaux did not say anything about Nima's murder, but detectives were convinced that they had identified Nima's killer. However, the DA did not file charges because he felt that there was not enough evidence on the Nima case.
On either case.
On either case. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just the Nima one. Okay. So now let's get into the trial. What do you got for us, Beth?
So Roubideaux was not charged until 2 years later, on October 19th, 1979, when she was charged with the first-degree murder of Mary Carpenter. Roubideaux then sat in prison for more than 2 years before her trial. And at some point, probably in 1980, Roubideaux gave birth to a son.
And now I'm just doing the math about all of that. Am I the only one doing the math about 2 years?
No, I did. I did a lot of math.
Okay.
Because there was an article about her son, and he was 23 at the time, and I had to subtract, and so I think he was born in 1980, and so...
Okay. I'm just... Immediately, my brain calculator was like, wait a minute. 9 months is what it takes, and she was there for 2 years. What?
Well, she was arrested or charged in 1979. So it's possible she was already pregnant when she went to jail. Although it's
here I am thinking that the guards did something bad.
Well,
okay.
that is possible too. I don't know. Like you said, we weren't there. We don't know.
We don't know. But
yeah.
In any case, in the meantime, prosecutors built the case against Roubideaux. One of the reasons why they waited so long was to allow Tina to get older so she could testify.
Yeah.
Which strategy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Trial is a game.
They really didn't have much evidence.
Mm-hmm.
They're waiting for Tina to get older so she can testify.
Mm-hmm.
The 1982 trial lasted for 4 weeks. 64 witnesses appeared during the 11 days of testimony. An expert testified that the bite mark on Tina's arm was consistent with Roubideaux's teeth and not consistent with Mary's teeth.
However, the bite marks were not photographed well, and at least one forensic expert said that the bites resembled what one would expect from another child, speculating that Mary bit Tina several times as they struggled to get out of the refrigerator. This is apparently not uncommon in situations where children are struggling to survive.
The prosecution called a couple of inmates who had spent time in the Comanche County Jail with Roubideaux. Both testified that Roubideaux had admitted her guilt to them in early May of 1981.
Roubideaux also took the stand. She denied everything and claimed that on the day the twins were abducted, she walked home from school, arriving there at 1:30 p.m., and that she had not left her home for the rest of the day, something that her family corroborated. She also said that she always stayed home in her free time and never roamed the neighborhood.
However, 4 firemen testified that for a time before Mary's murder, Roubideaux had been suspected of activating false fire alarms. Remember the fire alarms?
Uh-huh.
And it was near where her body was found, where Mary's body was found.
Whoa!
Yeah.
That detail was lost upon me until now. Wow.
Yes. And because of these false alarms, she had been monitored by the firemen.
Mm-hmm.
They watched out for her. And they said that they often observed her walking around in the neighborhood.
But another witness, Catherine Parker, testified that Tina had told her that a man and a boy had put her and her sister in the refrigerator. However, she never told investigators about the incident when they were investigating the murder.
Another one who never told investigators.
Yeah, that...
So I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, it's definitely something to note.
It's curious.
Mental note made, yes.
In the end, the jury failed to reach a consensus, and it resulted in a hung jury. Roubideaux was then retried in 1983, so the next year. As in the first trial, Kathy Ford and Tina Carpenter were called as witnesses. And then Thelma McCraig, who had not testified in the 1982 trial, was also called as a witness.
Thelma said that on the day of the incident, she and her husband were installing siding on their house when she saw Jackie Roubideaux pulling 2 little girls toward the abandoned house where they were eventually found. She said Jackie was holding their arms by the wrists and that they were trying to pull loose.
Thelma described the children she saw as dark girls about 2.5 years old. She said she saw Roubideaux walk by a short time later and that she was alone at that time. Thelma claimed that the reason she never came forward during the investigation was that she didn't want to get involved.
Oh, that just makes me so sad.
Yeah.
Kathy Ford was one of the 2 children who opened the refrigerator. She was 11 at the time. According to Kathy, when she asked Tina who did this to her and her sister, Tina said Jackie Boo or Jackie Burr.
Tina, who is now 10, testified to what happened to her.
Poor Tina.
Yeah. She told the court that she stayed alive by breathing through a hole in the refrigerator. She said she tried to wake Mary up, but she wouldn't wake up.
By the time of her testimony, Tina had told the story so many times that it's been reported that her voice had a sing-song quality to it when testifying. In this trial and in the 1982 trial, defense attorneys alleged that Tina had been coached by law enforcement officials and taught to memorize her testimony.
But Tina has always maintained that she was testifying as to what she remembered and that she had not memorized what she was saying.
Yeah, I know that is why they're like, kids shouldn't be in the courtroom,
right.
Blah, blah, blah. But I have a lot of faith in children, and I personally, I remember my 2nd birthday. So
my God, really?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And so it doesn't seem like, I know there are memories that we don't have because they happened to us so early, but 2 and 3 does not seem like a weird time to have a memory. Really?
Yeah, it does to me. I don't remember much from before I was 5.
Okay.
And I have this memory. So this is something weird that happened to me. So I have this memory of my sister learning to walk. And my sister is...
Minnie, everybody.
Yes, Minnie.
Hey, shout out to Minnie.
She's 2.5 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
So she would have been about 1 probably when she learned how to walk.
Okay.
So that would have made me, 3.5.
Okay.
And so I have this memory of her learning how to walk, and my arms are stretched out and she's walking to me.
Okay.
But then I was watching old family movies and it was in the movies. So my memory was of the movie. It wasn't a real memory.
Oh. Well, I don't care what you say. I remember my McDonald's birthday party. And I think Tina remembers everything from what happened that day.
I think everybody has a different, some people remember. I mean, I know people who say they don't remember anything from before they were 10. And then other people
crazy.
like
were
you.
Your eyes closed for 10? What? That's crazy.
And then people like you who remember things from when they're like 2 or 3. So I think everybody's memory is different.
I agree. But I think it is unfair for a system, such as the court system or criminal legal system, to blanketly say that young people's testimonies are not valid just because they were young.
Right.
When it should be case by case.
Yes.
That's all.
Gotcha.
Okay, I'm done. I ruined the whole show. You know what? Fruit Loops is dead.
It's over now.
We were about to turn, Fruit Loops is going to be 7 years old. Wait, we started in
8? Are we
18, 19,
7 or 8?
20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25.
I think we're turning 8.
Fruit Loops is going to be 7.
Oh, 7. Okay.
Yeah, and what do we remember from when we started? Nothing. Okay.
So you just spoiled your whole theory there.
Well, yep, I ruined everything. So now we're back to normal.
Okay, where were we? Oh, so Tina, they allege that she was coached by law enforcement officials and taught to memorize her testimony. Right. But Tina has always maintained that she was testifying as to what she remembered and that she had not memorized anything.
Shout out to Tina.
Yeah.
And what a brave, that's not easy.
Very brave, yeah.
This young girl to
10-year-old girl.
Do all of that is a lot. And wow.
Yeah.
Holiday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Holiday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Holiday. Holiday, bring it on.
Back to the trial. One of the people who testified was the clerk of the convenience store located near the Carter residence, who spoke with Roubideaux on the night of Nima Carter's abduction. Nima's murder was introduced into the trial to show a pattern of behavior by Roubideaux, despite the fact that she had never been charged for that crime. So it's prejudicial.
Yeah. And the reasoning behind this was that the two crimes were remarkably similar. Roubideaux lived within walking distance and in the same neighborhood as each victim. In both cases, Roubideaux had babysat and spent time with the victims.
The victims were very young Native American girls. They were abducted from their homes, which Roubideaux knew the layout of and had access to. Roubideaux knew about the door in the Carter home that would not lock.
The victims were found in abandoned houses where Roubideaux had previously been observed. A refrigerator was the instrument of death in both cases, the old-fashioned lock-up type of refrigerator that predated the magnetic door, and the cause of death of each was asphyxia.
Instrument of death is so serious.
Yeah.
But it's a refrigerator.
Ominous, yeah.
That we open so many times. And I've never actually used one of those old school fridges that has the lock.
Yeah.
I've seen them in museums, and I think I've seen, mostly museums.
A lot of, because I remember as a kid being warned not to get into refrigerators because
who would do that,
people would leave refrigerators out, like in this case, in abandoned homes, and kids would play, and they'd get into the refrigerator and close the door, and then they'd be locked in, and then they'd die. So I remember being warned not to get in.
That's a real thing.
That's a real thing. Yeah.
Wow.
But that was, as this says, that was before modern refrigerators. It was a handle that you would unlock the door with.
Yeah, it was a latch. There was a mechanism that could not let it be open from the inside.
Yeah.
Like if a grape is pushing on the door of our fridge, it won't close.
Yeah, it will open.
Yeah. So obviously technology has advanced to prevent this kind of thing happening.
Yeah.
But just for me as a learner, I did not realize that fridges were deadly.
Instruments of death.
Yes, we're instruments of murder.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So anyway, at the end of this trial, Roubideaux was convicted and received a life sentence. Her attorneys later appealed based on the fact that Nima's case was introduced and allowed to influence a jury. But in August of 1985, the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals upheld Roubideaux's sentence by a vote of 2-1. Now let's get into where are they now? Tell us, Beth.
In a parole hearing in 2003, Roubideaux claimed that on the day the twins disappeared, she and the twins' aunt, Thomasina, were doing drugs. Doing drugs.
It's been a long time. I got to do one more time. Doing drugs.
And they took the twins for a car ride. They were so high that they didn't know what they were doing, and they, quote, put them to bed, unquote, in the refrigerator.
Wow,
that
what?
Didn't happen.
That doesn't sound...
No. That doesn't sound real, and she did not get paroled.
Okay. So in 2003, Roubideaux's son, who was 3 when she was convicted and 23 years old in 2003, was charged with the rape of a 5-year-old girl. And the charges stemmed from a December 2001 abduction and assault on the girl, who was returned home after the incident.
He apparently had an intellectual disability, and when arrested, he told police that the child wanted to have sex with him. Ugh. In 2004, after several delays due to competency hearings, Sean Michael Roubideaux pleaded guilty to kidnapping and raping a child. He was sentenced to a total of 50 years.
Jackie Roubideaux died of liver cancer on August 26, 2005, at the Mabel Bassett Correctional Center in McLeod. She was only 46 years old at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
2 years after Nima's murder, George and Rose Carter had another baby girl. Sadly, Rose died in 2000.
Oh.
Nobody was ever charged in the abduction and murder of Nima Carter, though many people believe that the person responsible was Jackie Roubideaux. But not everyone is convinced that Roubideaux abducted Nima, including George Carter.
Oh, interesting. So 2 months prior to Nima's abduction, the Carters found their dog was poisoned. A few days later, they returned home to discover it trashed by vandals. George said, quote, I find it hard to think all those events were mere coincidence. The Jackie Roubideaux we knew? No. It just doesn't add up. I never sensed that about her. Whenever Jackie came over, Nima would run up to her and give her a hug. But several years ago, I saw an interview with Jackie in a newspaper. She said she was on drugs at that time in her life. Was it someone we knew? I think so. Someone who was familiar with our house, but I've never been fully convinced it was Jackie, unquote.
But George Carter found his peace years ago. Quote, I don't need to know because the person who did this will have to ultimately answer to God. You know, I'll never forget the act, but I forgive the person. I really do. And that alone has set me free, unquote.
This quote I read so many times today and in the weeks leading up to covering this case because it is so beautiful in the face of such tragedy and awfulness.
Yeah.
It's like expecting a seed to grow in concrete. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But after such a tragedy, this man his heart is still capable of forgiving, which is just so amazing to me.
Yeah, it is.
So that's the story, y'all. Let us know what y'all think. And right now, Beth and I are going to let you know what we think in our takes. Spicy hot takes. What do you got, Beth?
So at first, when I started researching this case, I didn't think there was going to be enough information. We didn't even know if Roubideaux was Native American.
Sure, yeah.
But the deeper I went into it, the more I found.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I assume there was probably some abuse going on at home if she was guilty. And she was taking it out on the children, vulnerable victims that she could easily overpower. They're easy victims.
Right. But also, where did she learn that shit?
Right.
Who gave her the idea to put a child in a refrigerator?
a refrigerator.
Who told you to do that, Roubideaux?
And I couldn't find anything about her home life except for names.
Okay.
But then when I read the names and I read about her family, and, I found some stuff on Ancestry.com. And it mentioned that her great uncle was sent to an Indian school. And it all kind of clicked into place.
Yeah.
If it's true that Roubideaux committed these crimes, then I would not be surprised if there was a lot of abuse in the home. And it all came from generational trauma due to these children being ripped away from their families and placed in abusive institutions.
Yeah.
And then her son. Then her son was also convicted of a crime, which makes me think, what the hell happened to these kids?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Roubideaux it feels like a consequence, or she's the symptom or the product of something else more sinister that we don't know about.
We don't know.
Yeah.
And it's shameful what our country did to those Native American children.
Yeah.
And the ripples of trauma that came down the family trees. I'm not surprised that that's what happened.
No, I mean, yes, none of us should be surprised. You're right. What a wild case.
Yeah.
I agree with you on everything, Beth. I might elaborate a little bit more. I cannot believe there is no movie or limited series about this case, because I looked. Because I mean,
there's hardly anything. There's not even a podcast.
It's riveting. It is interesting. There's a lot of history there and a lot of mystery. So it's a really intriguing case. I was just surprised by that. I'm not saying go make a movie and make money off this, but this
go make a movie.
but this is a case I think that is worthy of exploration and elevation because of all the things that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
It's so sad that Nima's case was not solved. I wonder if Roubideaux, the fire alarm thing.
Yeah.
And this goes to more about her being abused and we just don't know about it. Because she created a lot of chaos and destruction in theory, right? Because we don't know for sure if she did these things, but setting off fire alarms is something that somebody would do. I just want to see what happens.
Yeah.
Or
she's bored and she needs.
Yeah. Or
she wants some excitement.
Yeah. There's something like her dopamine levels are not regulated, so she needs a hit.
Yeah.
In order to get through. And so one little flick of that fire alarm and watch what ensues from your tiny little act. And I don't know if she poisoned the Carter's dog or not, but after the dog was gone, the house was trashed by vandals, and then Nima was abducted. So I don't know, but that is
all very strange.
Strange.
Yeah.
It's very suspicious. And snatching 2 girls at one time is crazy.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, if this is the girl who was setting off fire alarms, then she just escalates or goes to the next level up. And in the heat of the moment, she lured the girls out. Okay, lured them out. Check. Got that. Now I'm going to get them to go with me.
Refrigerator.
But they're getting a little bit tough, but I'm going to just grab them by their arms. And even though they're kicking and screaming, oh my gosh, nobody's stopping me. I'm getting away with this.
Yeah.
And it's really bad, but I'm kind of getting a thrill out of it because I'm not getting in trouble. And then we get to this abandoned house. And I don't know if she knew what she was going to do. This is the whole movie. This is why I was like, I can't believe this is a movie. I don't know if she didn't know.
Is it planned or
did she plan putting them in there? But either way, I imagine that her impulsivity and naughtiness she would get some sort of reward when she would act out that way and not get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's dopamine or what, but that's the word I'm going to use for now.
Okay.
And so she locked them in the fridge. She's young. And I was wondering a lot if somebody messed with Jackie in that way when she was young and locked her in a fridge. And for her to even get that idea, it's crazy. But Beth said that was a thing that people warned kids about back in the day.
Might have been, the warning that she heard. She's like, oh, you know what?
What?
I'm not going to get in a refrigerator, but I'm going to stick some kids in a refrigerator.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever stuck your Barbie's head in the microwave and pressed 1 minute to see what happened?
Oh my God.
Okay, I guess it's just me. Anyway, we started this podcast to be able to talk about cases that we never heard about before, about the victims of color and those who are minoritized. And I thought about this case sort of juxtaposed next to the JonBenet Ramsey disappearance murder.
Oh, yeah.
A really tragic case. But the difference is, by virtue of JonBenet Ramsey being white
and wealthy.
Yes. To this day, I had a meeting at my job the other day and somebody was like, JonBenet Ramsey, am I right? Like,
geez.
Still comes up. And these girls, their names, Nima Louise Carter, Mary Elizabeth Carpenter, and, also what happened to Tina, never heard a peep about it.
Never heard of them. Yeah.
And so I just thought that was really, really interesting. Also, loss of life is always sad, but it feels acutely worse when it's children.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
It wasn't their time. They had so much life, so much. Oh, Whitey is turning 50, and I'm just thinking, like, that's so many years. These girls didn't even get a fraction of that. Yeah. And I just, who they could be now, what they could be Nobel laureates or presidents or, dignitaries. Just, we don't know. And that is also a tragedy. And I just want to say rest in power to the victims, Nima and Mary Elizabeth, and wherever Tina is now. Our hearts go out to everybody affected by this, the family, the children, siblings, relatives, friends, playmates, the whole community. This was just a tremendous loss and a tough case.
Yeah.
So now let's get into how not to get murdered.
Okay.
Well, I think it's jingle time.
It is.
If you love true crime and you don't want to die, here's a tip for you. Ooh. That was wow. So wow. That was, we just had a moment, a musical moment.
This segment is not intended to be victim blaming. We thought of this segment because I read somewhere that a lot of people listen to true crime because they want to know what they can do to be safer. This is not meant to blame the victims. It's just learning from other people's experiences. Also, we have expanded this section to include taking care tips.
That's right. So remember to take care of yourselves. We got to take care of ourselves individually and after that, each other. Okay. But I was curious about how we can protect children from other young people who might pose a threat, which obviously is loaded. So, this is not the end all be all. This is just from Wendy's head. And if you have anything to add to it, please do get at us. And Beth, if you have any additional thoughts.
Okay.
But I was just thinking about how children are developing. So for starters, preventing abuse by adults could be a thing.
Yeah. Not
how about we don't hurt kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But being a good role model.
Yes, modeling, very, very important. So just a couple tips for us and the babies who are in our lives. Teach boundaries. Remember, no is a complete sentence, especially when it comes to unwanted attention or touching.
Right.
Promoting empathy is also crucial. Sort of that, try to imagine yourself, young person, in that other person's shoes. Like, that is a really great skill set to have, the capacity for empathy. Also promoting lots of communication, lots of conversations, listening, and encouraging kids to report things that make them feel uncomfortable or unsafe. And then being able to intervene or respond when we see a kid exhibiting aggressive or harmful behavior, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be, send that child to the electric chair. Like, we can stop this before it gets to that point.
Yeah.
Calmly and firmly telling kids that there are consequences to actions, and at the same time supporting kids who have been victims of harmful behavior. And as Beth said, seeing a model, like, if something bad happens, how should we act?
How should I
behave?
Yeah.
Will help them to be better humans in the world. And then always trust your gut and look alive, y'all. Anything else to add to that? Okay. Well, let's move on to shout out time, where we shout out any content by people of color or about people of color or any true crime goodies. So I got a podcast that I discovered called Into the Depths.
Ooh.
It is a 7-part podcast series by National Geographic.
Oh, wow.
Ow, ow, hip-hop air horns. And it's hosted by a Black female explorer, which I was today years old when I learned that was even a thing. So I'm not going to be podcasting anymore. I'm going to be working on being an explorer. But anyway.
An explorer. Okay.
Yeah. So Tara chronicles the work of Black scuba divers and Black archaeologists as they explore the complex history of the transatlantic slave trade.
Oh, wow.
So they're deep diving, looking for sunken slave ships.
Oh, my God.
And
That's amazing.
It is so okay. We love history here at Fruit Loops. Am I right?
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of history. It's fascinating.
Awesome.
And there's even some like retellings of slave narratives, people who were on those ships.
Wow.
And so you get to hear it in an actor's voice, but to hear their stories is incredible. And Tara Roberts, who is the host, is a Black female explorer and the first one to be on the cover of National Geographic. So, amazing.
That's awesome. I'm subscribing.
You should.
now.
It's only 7 episodes. They're not long, and it's great stuff.
Into the Depths.
Into the Depths.
Yes?
Yeah, what do you
Okay.
got?
So I wanted to shout out the television show The Residence on Netflix.
Yes.
It's from Shondaland.
Uh-huh. Even better.
If you enjoyed Knives Out, the movie Knives Out, you'll probably like this show.
Whoa, that's the first time I've heard that kind of comparison. You don't need to say anything else. Yeah. You can
So
close out
this
the
is-
show. I'm just going to watch.
So this is the synopsis from the interwebs.
Okay.
So The Residence is a fast-paced whodunit unfolding within the upstairs, downstairs, and backstairs of the White House, where an eclectic staff keeps the world's most famous mansion running. As the twists and turns multiply, Detective Cordelia Cupp teams up with a skeptical FBI special agent Edwin Park to unravel a captivating murder mystery.
I am already on board. You didn't tell me the old lady from Third Rock from the Sun is in it too. What? Okay, so I know I'm exhausted, but I'm probably going to watch this while I brush my teeth. Is it a series or a movie?
It's a series.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a series on Netflix.
I'll just spend 7 hours brushing my teeth and I'll finish I'll be done, no problem.
Sounds good to me. All right.
Just to recap, those shout outs are Into the Depths, a 7-part podcast series wherever you get your podcasts, as well as The Residence on Netflix, wherever you stream Netflix shows on Netflix. So, all right, Beth, where can the people find us?
Our website is fruitloopspod.com, and we use Fruit Loops Pod for all of our social media. The footnotes for each episode can be found on our website. Plus, check it out for the different ways that you can support the show. You can also join us on Patreon, where we have hundreds of hours of bonus content. You can also support us by supporting our sponsors, or by giving us a 5-star review.
5 stars only, please.
Don't forget to subscribe.
That's right. Now, this is a weekly podcast, and episodes drop on Thursdays. So until next time, look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there. In that case, let's get started.
Let's go.
How do you feel about that? Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. Okay. Quick. Hydrate. Okay. Hydrate. Have you ever had those waters in the box?
Not that I remember.
Like when we went, we were in a hotel somewhere. for something, and they had the water. They look like milk jugs, but it's
With
water.
Water.
Yeah.
You know, it's tickling my brain like I had one before, but I can't remember. I mean,
Well-
it's not weird because you put milk in it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's not weird, but normally I'd have a
unexpected.
water bottle. Yeah.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
actually purchased water in a box.
In a box. Okay.
Yeah. So
Right
anyway,
on.
yeah. Anyway, drinking water in a box. That's what we're doing over here. Over several days, 1,300 winning envelopes were drawn.
1,000.
13. What is wrong with my eyes and zeros?
I don't know, but I'm here to help.
Thank you so much. Maybe I need new glasses. I don't know.
Latin. I don't even know if it's Latin or I don't know how to pronounce it.
I think it depends.
You know, I'm terrible
on who you
at
ask.
pronouncing things.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say like a white person. Latin.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'll take it. Thank you for apologizing in advance. I love that you so you and old Whitey are like my favorite whites, and I just love you guys when you're like, you know what, this is a fucked up thing. Nah, I just want you to know I'm trying my best.
I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Wow. I was just jumping into the Latin. Over time and lighter government and military support. By the 1970s.
Lighter?
I was going to say latter and then
Latter.
tried to correct it at the last minute. Was hoping you wouldn't
Lighter.
notice. Anyway, I'm going to say it again.
It sounded like an Australian accent.
I
Lighter.
know. I tried to save it and you noticed. So
Just start at agriculture.
okay.
Well, Jacqueline or Jackie Roubideaux. Roubideaux, right.
That reminds me of Donald Trump because he calls Tesla Teslers.
Tesla.
Roubideaux said she was playing bango on the night. You ever take your grandma to bingo? It's smoky, and they get really in. They're so into this bango, so into it. Anyway, but then she was also mad that they didn't hire her to babysit.
Right.
So what is it, Roubideaux?
What are you mad at?
No! I've been, because I love White Lotus and Papa, no! I just started thinking about things I could add, like insert there. So Roubideaux, no, is one of the ones. It has a nice ring to it. Roubideaux, no! Okay. Which Roubideaux knew? Roubideaux knew. Roubideaux knew it. Roubideaux knew.
Scooby-Doo.
Roubideaux knew. Roubideaux dow. It's like scatting. Roubideaux doobazoo da. Zoobadoo. Roubideaux now. Wow. Zibadoo blah blah blee. I was reading an important sentence. Hang on. I'm gonna just go.
Okay.
All
right.
Okay, we did it.
We did it.
Okay, so I will. I'm all out of gas, friend.
All right.
Okay.
Wendy out.
I'm so sorry, but Wendy still loves you. Wendy still is here for you. Wendy is just
But Wendy's
tired
out.
and out. Okay. So
Okay.
I'm going to try to get the audio into the drive tonight, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Love you. Night-night.
All right.
Bye.
Love you too. Bye.